Hello, I'm going to talk about Yorkshire Surprise Maximus. Yorkshire was the fourth Surprise Maximus method to be rung to appeal and therefore officially named. Here's the appeal report. It was rung at St Mary le Tower in Ipswich, which was a pioneering location for 12 bell ringing in the early 20th century. The three methods rung before Yorkshire were first of all Cambridge, then Superlative, and then New Cambridge, which is a small variation of Cambridge. Cambridge Maximus is still very popular, of course. Superlative Maximus is not very much rung these days, but Superlative, the method, goes back quite a long way. And in fact, the first peal of Surprise Major was Superlative in 1821. The method we now call Superlative number one, Surprise Royal, was also rung to appeal at a relatively early stage in the late 19th century. Yorkshire has continued to be a popular Surprise Maximus method. Certainly every year since 1960, it's been in the top three most popular methods for tower bell peals of Maximus. Usually it's been third behind Cambridge and Bristol. Cambridge and Bristol have competed with each other for the top place generally since about 1998. Bristol has more often been a little more popular than Cambridge. Yorkshire may very well be the first Surprise Maximus method learnt by ringers. Another common possibility is Cambridge. Which one is easier? Well, I would say that Cambridge Maximus is slightly easier to learn the line, but Yorkshire Maximus is often found a little bit easier to ring. There's a clue about why that is in this little item that was published in the Ringing World after the first peal of Yorkshire Maximus was rung. You see I've highlighted. It is very musical as the bells work in their correct coursing order, both before and behind, with very little exception. And we'll come back to this point later, but it turns out that the same feature that makes Yorkshire more musical than Cambridge or indeed Superlative also makes it easier to ring. So we're winning both ways. We also see in this report a note that Yorkshire Maximus was produced by Arthur Craven and published in the Ringing World. Unfortunately, we don't have systematic records of the composers of methods in the way that we have records of composers of compositions. But we do know that Arthur Craven developed first Yorkshire Major and then Yorkshire Royal and Yorkshire Maximus. Actually, I think Arthur Craven deserves to be a bit better known as a pioneer of method construction and composition. He was really very active during the early 20th century. Here's the picture of him that was published in the Ringing World alongside his obituary in 1930. And he has a rather marvelous gravestone, which is in Abbey Lane Cemetery in Sheffield, which is where he lived. And the inscription here on the tomb calls attention to his achievements in the theory of change ringing. So back to the method Yorkshire. Here are the grids of Yorkshire Major on the left, Yorkshire Royal in the middle, and Yorkshire Maximus on the right. And the key feature we can see here that I've highlighted in blue, green, and magenta is this structure known as Yorkshire places. You can get Yorkshire places either above the treble, as shown in blue, or below the treble, as shown in green and magenta. If Yorkshire places occur above the treble, then one of the dodges is actually with the treble, whereas if Yorkshire places occur below the treble, then the treble is not involved in the places at all. And the way to think about Yorkshire places is dodge, far place, near place, dodge. And if you think of it that way, the work is the same independently of which direction you're heading in. You can be heading downwards. Here we talk about places down, or you can be heading upwards and we talk about places up. But it's dodge, far place, meaning a place in the direction you're heading in, near place, meaning a place in the direction you're heading away from, and then another dodge. Apart from the places, the rest of the method is mostly treble bob hunting. That's all the parts you can see here. Sometimes there's a missing dodge from the sequence of treble bob hunting, and that's associated with a bell running through a set of places. There are also some double dodges at the back, here and here, when the treble is getting near the back, and there's a triple dodge across the half lead in the penultimate dodging position, which for Maximus is 9-10, 7-8 for Royal, 5-6 for Major. And so the key to learning and ringing Yorkshire is understanding where you have to do Yorkshire places and where you interrupt the treble bob hunting sections by missing a dodge. So let's start to have a look at some play spells. Well, before we do that, let's think about the play spell order, which is always a good starting point when learning a method. So here it is, 2, 6, 10, 11, 7, 3, 4, 8, 12, 9, 5. It's worth becoming very familiar with this play spell order so that it just trips off the tongue like a little poem. You can think of it as alternating through the sequence of plain bob play spell order. So plain bob play spell order moves clockwise around this circle, but the Yorkshire play spell order is skipping alternate numbers. So 2, 6, 10, 11, 7, and so on. Another way to describe it is that if we think of plain bob as +1, because we're moving one step around this circle at each lead, then Yorkshire play spell order is +2 because we move 2 steps around the circle, we go from 2 to 6, 6 to 10, 10 to 11, and so on. And really, once we get to the level of Surprise Maximus, we really want to be very conscious of which play spell we are and ringing, a lead from one play spell to the next play spell. The more difficult the methods become, the more relevant play spell order is, and also it's vital for ringing spliced. So let's have a look at some of the play spells. First of all, an easy one, third play spell. This follows the same pattern as in Yorkshire Major and Yorkshire Royal. If you're learning Yorkshire Maximus, you are probably quite familiar with Yorkshire Major and Yorkshire Royal. So you get third play spell for free. It's just treble bob hunting towards the back, a double dodge, and then the characteristic work around the treble. And then it all reverses. Third play spell is the symmetrical play spell, pivot bell. Second play spell also follows the same pattern as Major and Royal, treble bob hunting until you get to the penultimate dodging position, in this case 9-10, triple dodge across the half lead, past the treble, up to the back, double dodge, lie, single dodge, and then it's treble bob hunting downwards until we become sixth play spell. The second play spell becoming sixth play spell. This is the same as in Yorkshire Major and Yorkshire Royal, so that's quite familiar. Fifth play spell is the reverse of second play spell, so we also get that one for free if we know Major and Royal. Next, I'm going to skip ahead to 10th play spell, and we'll come back to sixth play spell, which is the one after second play spell. So let's have a look at 10th play spell. We start with a little bit of treble bob hunting, one dodge worth, and then we've got a set of Yorkshire places below the treble. So dodge, thirds, fourths, dodge. There's a missing dodge above places below the treble. So this is a general rule. You always miss a dodge above a set of Yorkshire places below the treble. And I'm carefully describing this as a dodge above the Yorkshire places, not the dodge before Yorkshire places, because every play spell has its reverse. And if you look at the reverse of 10th play spell, which is 12th play spell, then this missing dodge would be after the places below the treble, but it's still above the places below the treble. After doing 3-4 places down, we've then got a little bit of treble bob hunting, which lasts for 3 dodges. This is part of a general pattern of doing a sequence of 3 dodges of treble bob hunting below the treble. We're working our way towards a set of Yorkshire places above the treble, in which one of the dodges, in this case, the first one, is with the treble. And there's a missing dodge below places above the treble. And this is another general rule in Yorkshire. We always miss a dodge below Yorkshire places that take place above the treble. So now let me come back to sixth place bell. So if we're working through the playing course from second place bell, then sixth place bell. And this again follows the same pattern as major and royal, straight onto the front, long front work. Treble bob hunting, working our way towards a set of places above the treble, which are as high up as they can be. So they're not at the back, they're in the penultimate position, which is 9-10 in this case. There's a missing dodge below the places above the treble, and the last dodge we do in this sequence of treble bob hunting is at the half lead, and that's in 5-6. In major, it would be in 1-2. In royal, it would be in 3-4. It's useful to think of this part of the long front work as being a set of Yorkshire places, which you can clearly see now I've outlined as in black. We've got dodge, far place, which is leading, near place, which is seconds, and then a dodge. So that actually is Yorkshire places. And if you think of it in that way, then the whole pattern of how the Yorkshire places occur throughout the method becomes much more consistent. And if you think of it in that way, then after doing this set of Yorkshire places, you've then got 1, 2, 3 stages of treble bob hunting. Now, I will admit that normally when ringing Yorkshire, when you get to sixth place bell, you probably think onto the front and do the full long front work, and that's fine. But in terms of thinking about the structure, this really is a set of Yorkshire places. So in sixth place bell, we've got 1, 2 places below the treble, 9, 10 places above the treble. Let's have a quick look at 10th place bell again. As we saw, it has 3, 4 places below the treble, 7, 8 places above the treble. So if you think of the sequence of place bells through the playing course, 6th, then 10th, then it'll be 11th, what's happening is that the places below the treble get 1 position higher each time. The places above the treble get 1 position lower each time. So the next one is 11th place bell. The places below the treble are in 5, 6. The places above the treble are also in 5, 6. So they're both in the same position. And again, we've got this sequence of 3 dodges worth of treble bob hunting, and we've got the missing dodges below the places above the treble and above the places below the treble. 7th place bell, places below the treble are in 7, 8. The places above the treble are in 3, 4. And working through the playing course, after 7th place bell, we get to 3rd place bell, which we've discussed, and then everything reverses. And you can look at the remaining place bells for 8th, 12th, and 9th and see the same pattern of how the places above and below the treble work and how they shift as you go from lead to lead. So let's have a look at the overall line. So here we've got 4 place bells all together, 6, 10, 11, and 7. And I'm just going to emphasize here the general pattern. As we've said, when we're below the treble, we've got sequences of 3 dodges worth of treble bob hunting. Here it is again, here it is again, and here it is again. Above the treble, we've got sequences of 4 dodges worth of treble bob hunting. So here we've got dodge up and down at the back, dodging 9, 10, and then dodging 7, 8. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 dodges of treble bob hunting. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, a little bit obscured, and that's the general pattern. I did say earlier on that you should really be thinking about working from place bell to place bell, and so part way through these sequences of treble bob hunting above the treble, you should be noting when you become 10th place bell, 11th place bell, 7th place bell, and so on. But if you want to back up, you can think about doing a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4 dodges of treble bob hunting each time you're above the treble. Let's come back to this little note from the comment on the first peal of Yorkshire Maximus. The bells work in their correct coursing order, both before and behind, with very little exception. So let's dig into that a little bit and see what it means and how it's of use for practical ringing. Here, I've got a sequence of 4 place bells again, and we're focusing on the blue line here. So it's going 6th place bell, 10th place bell, 11th place bell, 7th place bell. And the magenta line, this is the bell that's ahead of the blue bell in the coursing order. So in this lead, it's the 4th, which is coursing ahead of the 6th, here it's the 8th, coursing ahead of the 10th, and so on. So that's your course bell. And what happens here is the 4th here, it's immediately doing a set of Yorkshire places, and the 6th runs through it. So you run through the places made by your course bell. You've then got this little section where the coursing pair are actually the wrong way round. So 6 has got to the front before 4, but then 4 catches up, runs through the places, which in this case is the front work. And then you've got this section of treble bob hunting where the bells are back in the correct coursing order. 4th is coursing up ahead of the 6th. And then the 4th is going to do a set of places up, which are in 7, 8 here. The 6th runs up through them. You get another little section where the coursing order is reversed. Then the 6th stops for a set of places. The 4th runs up through it. And once both bells are back above the treble, they're just back in their proper coursing order. And this is how it proceeds in each lead. So you're constantly playing leapfrog with your course bell. And this is really quite helpful when ringing. We can take another view of this sequence of leads and now focus on the magenta bell. And then the blue bell is the bell that's coursing after the magenta bell. So it's the after bell. And of course, exactly the same thing is happening. So the after bell is catching up, getting a little bit ahead, and then the magenta bell catches up with it, and so on. So in the first half of the course, if you think of the playing course going from 2nd place bell onwards, in the first half of the course, you're catching up with your course bell, and then it catches up with you. In the second half of the course, your after bell is catching up with you, and then you catch up with it. So that's the general pattern. Okay. Now let's have a look at something slightly different. So we're back to one line here, and I've just shown 3 leads, but again, the pattern continues. Let's see what's happening in these sequences of treble bob hunting. First of all, below the treble, here we've got the blue bell is the 6th. It gets onto the front. It does some work with the 4th, its course bell. And then the 8th comes onto the front to beat the 6th. So the 8th is coursing after 6th. So this is okay. On the front, we've met the bell that's coursing after us. And then as the 6th is treble bob hunting up, dodges with the 8th, passes the 10th, dodges with the 12th, passes the 11th, dodges with the 9th, passes the 7th. So we've got this whole sequence of passing bells in coursing order, 8, 10, 12, 11, 9, 7. And this is really helpful when ringing because that sequence is so familiar. And then it gets broken because our course bell, the 4th, stops to do places. We run up through it. But once we finish doing the places and we're thoroughly back above the treble, what have we got here? Dodging with the 3rd, passing the 2nd, dodging with the 4th, and then the 8th comes up to us. Then it's the 10th, 12th, 11th. So we're back to passing bells in coursing order again. And you can check that exactly the same thing happens in the other leads and in the second half of the course that I haven't shown here. And this is really why Yorkshire is easier to ring than Cambridge, even if it's a little bit more difficult to learn, because so much more of the time you get the familiar sequence of passing bells in coursing order. It's most helpful for all the bells in the plain course. Of course, obviously, if you're ringing a touch or a quarter peal or a peal, the coursing order of the little bells gets broken up. But if it's a conventional composition where the bells from 7th upwards are not affected by the bob, then at least whenever you're passing the back bells, you've got them in the correct coursing order. There is an exception to always passing the bells in coursing order, and this comes about because of the way that the coursing pairs leapfrog through each other's places. And I said that you get these little sections where a coursing pair of bells are reversed. And where that has a practical consequence is in the way that 5th place bell and 2nd place bell pass the other bells. So let's have a look at that. First of all, 5th place bell, it does its work up towards the back, and this is above the treble, so it's passing bells in coursing order. There we've got 6, 8, 10, 12, 11, 9, 7. and then 3 comes up. We get the triple dodge in 9-10, and then which is with the second. So if we were going to pass the bells in coursing order, we'd expect to see the 4th next and then the 6th, but instead we get the 6th, then the 4th. So that pair is reversed. The next pair should be 8-10, but we get the 10th first and then the 8th. The next pair should be 12-11, but we get the 11th first and then the 12th. And the final pair should be 9-7, but we get the 7th first and then the 9th. So it is basically the coursing order, but each pair of consecutive bells is being reversed. And it's exactly because the 5th is passing the bells while they're in this interlude between the leapfrogging places. If we look at second place bell, exactly the same thing is going on. So 6 comes to join the second on the front instead of the 4th. Then we pass the 4th. The next pair should be 8-10, but we get 10th and then the 8th, and so on. It continues all the way up. So if you want to, you can take note of that. You can be aware of it when ringing, and it can be quite helpful. If anyone criticizes you for ringing by the numbers, which is something we discourage beginning ringers from doing, well, tell them that you're ringing by the coursing order, which is getting into advanced conducting, and then that's much better. Let's come back to this comment on the first peal for the final time. It is very musical as the bells work in their correct coursing order, both before and behind. So let's just have a little look at what that means. Here's a diagram from complib.org. This is Cambridge Maximus, and what we're looking at here is the green highlights. So the green highlights are when we've got sequences of consecutive bells, either ascending or descending, at the front or back of the row. So according to a certain conception of musicality in change ringing, these green highlights are considered to be musical sequences. And if we look at, so this is just 5 leads of Cambridge, it's not the whole course, it's just a representative sample. And generally speaking, we've got these musical runs in occurring in pairs. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 of them, basically. Okay, here's superlative. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So that's the same as Cambridge. And Yorkshire, we can see there are more. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So Yorkshire really is a lot more musical, as the comment claimed. And this is a consequence of the bells staying in coursing order below the treble, which, as we've seen, also makes the method easier to ring. So, in conclusion, the key points we've looked at are the place bell order of the method. We've looked at the characteristic pattern of Yorkshire places and treble bell hunting. And we've seen how knowledge of the coursing order and how we pass the bells can be helpful in practice to find our way through the method. And that's all.